In the year 1944, Lieutenant Hank Marlowe finds himself on an uncharted island after his plane crashes somewhere over the South Pacific. In a dramatic turn of events, he comes face to face with Gunpei Ikari, another soldier who crash lands on the island soon after him. As tension builds up, Marlowe and Ikari draw their respective weapons and engage in a high-octane fight in the heart of the mysterious forest. Just as it seems like Ikari is about to have the upper hand, a gigantic hand comes out of nowhere and smashes into the ground, revealing the behemoth ape, Kong. In the year 1973, government official Bill Randa and geologist Houston Brooks arrive in Washington, D.C. to meet with Senator Willis. Their agenda is to receive funding for an expedition to an exotic location known as Skull Island. Although Willis is not very convinced about the idea, Randa manages to persuade him. As they prepare to leave, Randa requests for a military escort. Meanwhile, the Sky Devil Squadron is eagerly waiting to head back home. The team, headed by Colonel Preston Packard, includes Captain Earl Cole, Slivko, Relis, Glenn Mills, and Jack Chapman, who serves as Packard's right-hand man. Packard receives the call for the expedition and jumps at the opportunity. Randa and Brooks walk into a dimly lit bar and spot their potential tracker, the ex-British Special Air Service Captain James Conrad. As they approach him, two unruly patrons try to pick a fight with Conrad, but he quickly puts them in their place. After the commotion settles, Conrad joins Randa and Brooks at their table to hear their proposal. Though interested, Conrad demands a higher payment and warns them about the risks involved with the mission, severe weather conditions and deadly creatures. Meanwhile, Mason Weaver, an experienced anti-war photographer, is developing her latest shots in a darkroom. Suddenly, she receives a call summoning her to join the expedition team. Upon arrival, Weaver joins Brooks, Packard, and the entire scientific team from Landsat, including San Lin, Victor Nieves, and Steve. Despite her suspicions about the military's ulterior motives, Weaver listens as Brooks explains the mission and what they hope to discover on Skull Island. The team sets sail on a ship, braving the rough ocean waters before embarking on choppers towards the mysterious island. As they venture deeper, the clouds grow darker and produce lightning, adding to the trepidation. However, as they break through the storm, the choppers soar across the area. Weaver captures some breathtaking pictures while the soldiers drop seismic charges into the ground, causing thunderous explosions. Suddenly, Kong appears, throwing a tree at one of the choppers, causing it to plummet to the ground. He then grabs more trees and smashes them into the debris. In the midst of the chaos, the surviving members are separated amidst the flames from the burning wreckage. As Packard confronts Randa, he holds Randa at gunpoint, demanding an explanation for their presence. Randa confesses that he had been aware of the monsters within the island and had been seeking proof about Monarch, the organization he represented. Conrad, Weaver, Brooks, Lynn, Slivko, and Nieves were huddled together while Randa, Packard, Mills, Cole, and other soldiers set out to search for Chapman. The latter was heavily armed with enough ammunition that Packard intends to use against Kong. As the brave soldiers pursued their mission in the wilderness, they suddenly encountered a spine-chilling threat. The horrifying sight of a giant spider with one of its legs down a soldier's throat left them stunned. The monstrous creature started attacking them with all its might. Watchful Mills was ensnared by the webbing while others started cutting down the spider's legs with their sharp implements. Mills skillfully cut himself free and then Packard made the deadly move to shoot the spider down. Chapman stands alone by the river and catches a sight of Kong wading through the river to tend to his wound caused by Chopper's gunfire. Kong drinks from the river and swiftly spots a colossal octopus, which he battles with, grabbing its legs before tearing it apart and dragging the carcass away. Conrad's team finds themselves encircled by a tribe of natives, fighting for survival when suddenly an experienced Marlowe appears. He peacefully approaches both groups, making sure that they understand that they mean no harm to each other and then offers to guide the group beyond the wall. Marlowe, being on the island for 28 years, shares his knowledge about the natives and the island, which Conrad's team is fascinated to learn about. Kong is revered among the natives as a protector, having saved them from the treacherous creatures lurking beneath the earth, known as skull crawlers, which have threatened to wipe out their population for ages, including Kong's own family. Marlowe sheds light on the origins of these skull crawlers, who once remained dormant underground until awakened by the seismic charges. And it's not just the natives who need Kong's shield and spear, as if he falls, the skull crawlers will triumph. As Chapman walks through the dense forest and takes a break on a massive fallen log, he is oblivious to the danger beneath him. Unbeknownst to him, the log was actually a creature in disguise, and when it departs, Chapman finds himself at the mercy of a vicious skull crawler, unable to defend himself as the deadly beast claims his life. Conrad informs Marlowe about their plan to reach the north side of the island within 3 days to increase their chances of being rescued. Marlowe, being aware of the terrain and knowing that it is impractical to accomplish the journey on foot in such a short time, agrees to guide them. After saying their goodbyes to the locals, they embark on a boat. Nieves, unfortunately, becomes prey to carnivorous birds and is ripped apart midair. Their voyage ahead, Weaver comes across a stranded water buffalo stuck beneath a damaged chopper. Determined to help, she tries lifting it up to no avail. That's when Kong comes into the picture, pulling the chopper out effortlessly. As she gazes upon the gigantic beast, she's more awestruck than frightened. Intrigued by Marlowe's leadership, the group ventures into the Forbidden Zone, a once battlefield between Kong's ancestors and their enemy, the skull crawlers. As they explore the area, they stumble upon the fallen remains of Kong's family. Suddenly, a skull crawler appears, causing the group to take cover. After the danger passes, Conrad notices Chapman's dog tags and skull in the creature's grasp. Meanwhile, Packard and his crew arrive at the same location, only to meet their match with multiple skull crawlers and a swarm of carnivorous birds. In an intense battle, Marlowe proves victorious by wielding the legendary sword of Ikari, which he ultimately passes on to Conrad. In a stunning act of bravery, Weaver devises a fiery plan to take down one of the beasts. After the intense battle, the different groups come together, but Packard is still relentless in his search for Chapman. Conrad confirms Chapman's demise by showing Packard his dog tags. Despite this, Packard's thirst for revenge is unquenched. He wants to find Chapman's ammunition stash in order to take down Kong. However, this plan is met with opposition from Marlowe, Weaver, and Conrad. As night falls, Packard puts his plan into action and sets a deadly trap for Kong. Meanwhile, Conrad and Weaver cross paths with the giant beast, but approach him with caution. To their surprise, Weaver is able to touch him without any consequence. Unfortunately, Packard succeeds in luring Kong to the trap and ignites the fuel, causing the mighty beast to catch fire. In the frenzy, Kong kills 2 soldiers, including Steve, before collapsing. Preparing for their next move, Conrad and Weaver are forced to convince the soldiers that killing Kong is not the solution. Their argument falls on deaf ears as Packard remains unyielding. Suddenly, a massive skull crawler appears from the ground, putting the group in mortal danger. In the midst of the chaos, Packard decides to stay behind and detonate the explosives. Kong eventually comes to their aid by crushing Packard with his fist. The group of survivors races towards the shore with the ominous skull crawler hot on their heels. Cole, without a moment's hesitation, decides to stay behind and confront the beast, determined to kill it as he sets off 2 grenades in an ultimate act of bravery. Despite his valiant efforts, the monster lashes out its tail, sending Cole hurtling into a wall where he meets his fiery demise. Until Kong reappears and slams into the beast, the skull crawler is moving towards the group. Weaver fires a flare gun at the skull crawler, striking it in the face. Weaver is unintentionally thrown into the river as Kong grabs the skull crawler and throws him against the wall. Kong removes Weaver while continuing to battle the skull crawler. He punches the beast in the throat and extracts its insides. Weaver is then set down next to Conrad by Kong before he departs. As the survivors, Conrad, Weaver, Marlowe, Brooks, Lynn, Mills, Slivko, and Relis, set sail on the boat, 3 choppers arrive to rescue them. Meanwhile, Kong stands guard in the distance, determined to protect his territory. With a thunderous fist pound and a mighty roar, Kong bids farewell to his newfound friends. As the credits roll, we see a heartwarming video of Marlowe finally returning home to Chicago, where he reunites with his wife and meets his adult son for the first time. He then settles down to enjoy a Cubs game. Later, Conrad and Weaver find themselves interrogated by Monarch, but they're not alone. Brooks and Lynn enter the room and present shocking evidence that there are other monsters in the world, including Mothra, King Ghidorah, Rodan, and the iconic Godzilla. The presentation ends with the thrilling combined roars of Kong and Godzilla, leaving us on the edge of our seats. So, this was all for today's recap. Don't forget to hit the like, share, and subscribe buttons for more spectacular content like this.